Urgent. Your soulmate needs you now. What just happened will leave you speechless. This message is for you. Take a slow breath before you continue, because sometimes a message arrives at the exact moment when your heart needs encouragement, clarity, and a reminder that you are not walking through life without purpose. What happened last night may have felt unexpected, confusing, or impossible to understand, but instead of treating it as a prediction or a guaranteed sign about another person's thoughts, allow this message to speak to the deeper part of you, the part that has been waiting for reassurance, peace, and a reason to keep believing in better days. Something shifted. Maybe you cannot explain it yet. Maybe yesterday felt ordinary until one small moment changed the atmosphere around you. Maybe you woke up with a strange feeling that something was different. Maybe a conversation, a dream, a memory, a coincidence, or a sudden realization made you stop and wonder why your heart felt unusually alert, and perhaps that is why you are reading this now, not because you need to chase anyone, not because you need to force an answer, not because you need to prove that someone is thinking about you. You are here because your heart is asking for clarity. And clarity often begins when you stop demanding that everything makes sense immediately. Last night represents something important in this message, a turning point. It represents the moment when uncertainty begins giving way to awareness. It represents the possibility that someone connected to your story may be facing their own realization, while you are being invited to face yours. There are moments in life when people suddenly understand the value of something they previously overlooked. There are moments when silence becomes louder than words. There are moments when distance makes people reconsider their choices. There are moments when an ordinary night becomes memorable because a difficult truth finally becomes impossible to ignore. That may be the emotional theme behind the title you are reading. Someone may need support. Someone may need understanding. Someone may need the courage to communicate honestly. But there is another truth you must remember. You are not responsible for rescuing another person from every problem they face. You can care without carrying everything. You can love people without losing yourself. You can hope for reconciliation without forcing it. You can believe in meaningful connections while still allowing reality, respect, honesty, and healthy boundaries to guide you. That distinction matters more than you realize, because sometimes the heart becomes so focused on what another person might be feeling that it forgets to ask the most important question: what do I need right now? Perhaps you have spent too long waiting. Perhaps you have replayed conversations in your mind. Perhaps you have wondered whether someone noticed your kindness. Perhaps you have asked yourself whether a person who became important to you understands how much their presence affected your life. Perhaps you have felt as though you were standing at the edge of an unanswered question. And now this message arrives with one simple reminder. You do not have to abandon yourself while waiting for someone else to understand you. That is where the real transformation begins. Something happened last night. Not necessarily a supernatural event, not necessarily a secret conversation, but perhaps a moment of emotional awakening. A person may have looked at their circumstances differently. They may have recognized that certain choices have consequences. They may have realized that silence cannot continue forever. They may have thought about someone they care about and wondered what might happen if they finally became honest. but the important part is not whether you can predict exactly what happened. The important part is what this possibility teaches you. People change when they become aware. People grow when they take responsibility. People become stronger when they stop running from uncomfortable truths. And sometimes a connection becomes meaningful not because everything happens perfectly, but because both people learn how to communicate with honesty and respect. So if your heart has been restless, let this message calm it. You do not need to panic. You do not need to rush. You do not need to send a message simply because you feel anxious. You do not need to interpret every coincidence as proof. You do not need to chase signs. Let what is genuine reveal itself through consistent actions. That is one of the strongest messages you can carry with you today. Actions matter. Consistency matters. Respect matters. Truth matters. And when someone genuinely values a connection, that value eventually becomes visible through what they choose to do. Maybe last night was the beginning of someone recognizing that. Maybe someone realized that avoiding a conversation does not make the conversation disappear. Maybe they recognized that their silence affected another person. Maybe they understood that certain misunderstandings had gone on too long. Maybe they realized that they had been protecting themselves so carefully that they were also preventing themselves from experiencing something meaningful. And maybe you have been doing something similar. Maybe you have been protecting yourself. Maybe you have been afraid to hope because hope can feel vulnerable. Maybe you have convinced yourself that you do not care because caring felt too uncertain. Maybe you have told yourself that you are completely fine while a quieter part of your heart continued asking questions. There is nothing shameful about that. You are human. You are allowed to have complicated feelings. You are allowed to miss someone. You are allowed to care. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to decide that peace is more important than uncertainty. And you are allowed to move forward if a situation no longer gives you the honesty and respect you deserve. The word urgent in this message does not mean that you must act impulsively. It means that something inside you deserves attention. Your emotional well-being deserves attention. Your boundaries deserve attention. Your dreams deserve attention. Your future deserves attention. Your heart deserves kindness. Maybe that is the real urgency. For too long, you may have been waiting for someone else to make everything clear. Now it is time to become clear about yourself. Ask yourself what kind of connection you want. Do you want a connection based on confusion? Do you want a connection based on guessing? Do you want to spend your days wondering whether someone cares? Or do you want something grounded in honesty, respect, patience, trust, and mutual effort? The answer can guide you. You do not need to know the entire future. You only need to know what kind of treatment you are willing to accept today. There is strength in that. There is peace in that. And there is freedom in realizing that your future does not depend on one person's decision. Your life is bigger than one connection. Your purpose is bigger than one unanswered message. Your identity is bigger than whether someone chooses you. You are already worthy of kindness, respect, friendship, encouragement, and genuine care. Never make another person's uncertainty become your definition of yourself. That is a lesson worth remembering. Perhaps last night brought someone face to face with a realization they had avoided. Maybe they recognized that certain behavior had consequences. Maybe they realized that an important conversation needed to happen. Maybe they thought about how quickly time passes. Maybe they remembered a moment they had dismissed. Maybe they finally understood why a particular person had mattered to them. These are possibilities, not promises, and you do not need to turn them into facts before reality confirms them. Instead, take the emotional lesson. When people care, they should learn to communicate. When people make mistakes, they should learn to take responsibility. When people want to repair something, they should show that intention through respectful actions. And when someone is unsure, you do not have to spend your life solving their uncertainty for them. Let people reveal themselves. Let time reveal patterns. Let truth become visible. You have probably experienced moments when your intuition seemed to tell you something before you could explain why. That can happen because your mind notices small details. A change in someone's behavior, a different tone of voice, a delayed response, a shift in attention, a contradiction, a new pattern. Your intuition can be useful, but intuition is not the same as certainty. That distinction protects your peace. You can notice a feeling without treating it as a fact. You can wonder without assuming. You can hope without becoming dependent on an outcome. You can care while still staying grounded. That is emotional strength, and perhaps that is exactly what you are being invited to practice now. Do not let urgency turn into fear. Do not let curiosity turn into obsession. Do not let hope turn into pressure. Let hope remain gentle. Let it remind you that tomorrow can contain possibilities you cannot see today. Maybe the person connected to your story will eventually speak honestly. Maybe a misunderstanding will be clarified. Maybe circumstances will change. Maybe the connection will develop in a healthier direction. Or maybe you will discover that your greatest transformation comes from releasing the need to know what another person is doing. All of those outcomes can lead somewhere meaningful. Your future is not limited to one possibility. That is important. Sometimes people become so attached to a particular ending that they miss the beautiful things already developing around them. There may be friendships you have not fully appreciated. There may be opportunities you have not noticed. There may be talents you have not explored. There may be goals waiting for your attention. There may be peaceful moments arriving after a difficult season. There may be people who care about you more than you realize. Your life is still unfolding. Do not reduce it to one unanswered question. And if someone truly needs you, remember that healthy support does not mean becoming responsible for their entire emotional world. You can listen. You can encourage. You can be compassionate. But you can also say, I need time. You can say, I want honesty. You can say, I cannot solve this for you. You can say, let's talk when we are both calm. Those statements are not rejection. They are boundaries. And boundaries can protect meaningful relationships instead of destroying them. Imagine waking up tomorrow with no fear about whether someone will choose you. Imagine feeling secure enough to let people make their own decisions. Imagine knowing that if someone wants to be part of your life, they will have opportunities to demonstrate that through consistent behavior. Imagine no longer needing to decode every silence. That is peace, and perhaps peace is the message. Hidden beneath the dramatic title, something happened, something changed. But maybe the greatest change is happening inside you. Maybe you are becoming less willing to accept confusion. Maybe you are becoming more honest about your needs. Maybe you are learning that patience does not mean waiting forever. Maybe you are learning that forgiveness does not require forgetting. Maybe you are learning that caring does not require self-sacrifice. Maybe you are learning that the strongest form of love begins with respect for yourself and others. These lessons can change your entire future. There may come a moment when someone finally decides to speak. If that happens, do not focus only on the emotion of the moment. Listen carefully. Look for honesty. Notice whether their actions match their words. Ask whether the conversation leaves both people feeling respected. Do not let dramatic words erase a history of harmful behavior. Do not let a sudden apology pressure you into making an immediate decision. You can take your time. You can think. You can ask questions. You can seek advice from someone you trust. You can decide what is healthiest for you. That is not being cold. That is being thoughtful. And if no conversation comes, you can still move forward. Your life does not have to remain paused. You can keep growing. You can keep learning. You can keep laughing. You can keep building friendships. You can keep pursuing your goals. You can keep becoming the person you want to be. No one else gets to put your life on hold. Perhaps the deepest message here is that your worth does not depend on being someone's soulmate. Your worth exists before any relationship. Your worth exists without a confession. Your worth exists without a text message. Your worth exists without a dramatic reunion. Your worth exists because you are a person with dreams, feelings, abilities, and a future. Remember that whenever uncertainty becomes loud, last night may have felt significant because it forced attention onto something you had been avoiding. Maybe you realize that you deserve clarity. Maybe you realize that you need to communicate. Maybe you realize that you need to release something. Maybe you realize that you have been waiting for permission to move forward. You do not need permission. You can choose peace. You can choose patience. You can choose honesty. You can choose growth. And sometimes the most powerful decision is simply refusing to let fear make your choices for you. The future does not need to be forced. Let it unfold. Let people demonstrate who they are. Let yourself grow into who you are becoming. If someone is meant to remain an important part of your life, the connection should have room for mutual respect, honest communication, healthy boundaries, and genuine care. And if circumstances change, you can adapt. You are capable of adapting. You are capable of healing from disappointment. You are capable of learning from mistakes. You are capable of building something new. Nothing about uncertainty means you are powerless. You still have choices. You can decide how you respond. You can decide what you believe. You can decide what you accept. You can decide what deserves your attention. That is where your power lies. Maybe someone else is having a difficult night. Maybe someone else is thinking deeply. Maybe someone else is realizing something. But you cannot know another person's inner world with certainty unless they communicate it, so do not carry assumptions as though they are facts. Give reality the opportunity to speak, and while reality unfolds, give yourself permission to live. Go outside, talk to someone you trust, work towards something you care about. Laugh, rest, create, learn, dream. There is more waiting for you than one conversation. Sometimes the heart wants one answer because it believes that answer will solve everything. But life rarely works that way. One answer can create another question. One conversation can open another chapter. One decision can lead to another opportunity. Your journey is not a single moment. It is a series of choices, so choose wisely. Choose what gives you dignity, choose what protects your peace, choose what encourages growth, choose relationships where people can communicate without manipulation or pressure, choose connections where both people are allowed to be themselves, choose people who respect boundaries. Choose honesty over guessing, choose patience over panic, choose courage over fear, and choose yourself when you need to. Maybe that is what someone needs to understand about you. You are not simply someone waiting to be chosen. You are someone with a life of your own. You have a voice. You have dreams. You have boundaries. You have the right to say yes. You have the right to say no. You have the right to take your time. You have the right to ask for clarity. You have the right to walk away from situations that consistently make you feel unsafe, disrespected, or overwhelmed. That is not selfish. That is self-respect, and self-respect changes the kind of relationships you allow into your life. So if this message feels urgent, let the urgency be gentle. Let it call you back to yourself. Do not run toward fear, run toward clarity. Do not chase uncertainty, choose understanding. Do not demand that tomorrow answer every question. Allow today to teach you what you need to know. Something happened last night. Perhaps it was simply a realization. Perhaps it was a conversation. Perhaps it was a moment of silence. Perhaps it was an ordinary night that gave someone time to think. Whatever the real event was, you do not have to invent details around it. You can let the unknown remain unknown. There is peace in saying, "I don't know yet." Those 4 words can be incredibly powerful. I don't know yet. Maybe they will call, maybe they won't, maybe the situation will change, maybe it won't, maybe a connection will grow, maybe it will become a lesson, maybe the person you thought would stay will leave, maybe someone unexpected will enter your life. You do not know yet, and that is okay. The future is not asking you to solve it today. Today is asking you to live. Take the next healthy step, then another, then another. Eventually, you will look back and realize that the uncertainty you once feared became the place where you learned your strength. Maybe that is the real shock waiting for you. Not that someone secretly knows something about you. Not that some mysterious event guarantees a specific future. But that you are becoming stronger than the version of yourself who once believed everything depended on another person's decision. You are becoming calmer. You are becoming wiser. You are becoming more selective about what deserves your emotional energy. You are learning that meaningful connections do not need constant drama to be important. They can be peaceful. They can be respectful. They can be honest. They can allow room to breathe, and that is the kind of connection worth building. If someone needs you, they can communicate. If someone is struggling, they can seek appropriate support. If someone wants to repair a misunderstanding, they can approach you respectfully. You do not have to read minds. You do not have to decode hidden signs. You do not have to carry responsibility for what another person refuses to communicate. Let them take responsibility for their choices. You take responsibility for yours. That is where 2 people can meet as equals. And if a person connected to your story eventually comes forward with an honest conversation, remember this message: listen. Stay calm, ask questions. Protect your boundaries. Do not rush because emotions are intense. Give yourself time to understand. The strongest conversations are not always the loudest. Sometimes the most meaningful words are quiet. I'm sorry. I understand. I should have communicated. I respect your decision. I want to do better. I need time. Thank you for being honest. Those words can change the direction of a relationship more powerfully than dramatic promises. And if someone cannot respect your boundaries, that tells you something important too. You do not need to convince them. You do not need to argue endlessly. You can step back. Your peace matters. Your emotional safety matters. Your future matters. Never allow the word soulmate to convince you that you must tolerate disrespect. A meaningful connection should never require you to abandon your values. A meaningful connection should never demand that you ignore warning signs. A meaningful connection should never make you feel that you have no choice. Real care leaves room for freedom. Real respect leaves room for boundaries. Real trust grows through consistent behavior.